Dane Brugler has released his 7-round mock draft. What did the Dallas Cowboys do? We will break it down on this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. On today's show, we are breaking down the 7-round mock draft from Dane Brugler, a friend of the show, who more often than not has been pretty accurate when it comes to mocking the Dallas Cowboys. If you remember back in 2018, I kind of put everybody on his radar when he mocked Leighton Vander Esch to the Cowboys in round one. In 2022, he got the Sam Williams and Jalen Tolbert picks right. Last year, he got the Overshown pick right. So he's got some connections when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. So, Landon, let's break down his mock at pick number 24 with Jackson Powers-Johnson still on the board, with Chop Robinson, with Jordan Morgan, A.D. Mitchell, Johnny Newton, Patrick Paul, Darius Robinson. He gives the Cowboys offensive tackle Tyler Guyton, which has been a very, very common mock over the last month and a half. What are your thoughts on the pick?
I'm not shocked. It feels like everybody's been kind of almost in pen writing Tyler Guyton's name at 24. And again, like for all the reasons that we've talked about before, it makes sense. The combination of need versus availability versus, draft grade. I think that, the consensus between us, that is that we're not sure what to do with this guy. I have him graded very similarly as 3 or 4 other tackles who are, basically considered to be second round picks, so the idea of kind of taking this guy at 24 is rough because it just because of how I have them graded. But again, like I think these upside players like this, sometimes it's difficult to kind of project where they're going to go forward. Sometimes these guys have better information than we do, and maybe that entices them more to players like this. But having said that, I still am not 100. Like Dane Brugler is the oracle. I mean, I am certainly not doing anything other than to disparage Dane, who is the absolute best at this. He's the gold standard. Like honestly, I do wonder if like this is a situation where it's just too convenient to put Guyton in here. It just because of the, like I said, the mindset of people that have to put together mock drafts, right? And better than most, right? That like it's a difficult exercise because you have this idea of where these players are supposed to go. You have an idea of what these teams are supposed to be drafting, and there's a marriage there. And if the marriage is very clean, it's like, oh, this team needs a tackle, and this guy is a tackle. It makes a lot of sense, but that's not necessarily how the draft falls, and that's why the draft has chaos, right? Is because when reality meets the road, when the rubber hits the road, like the reality of the situation kind of will change the angle. So I wouldn't be shocked if we got in there and this exact situation laid out like happens and the Cowboys get to the 24 and they have the same players available and they take Jackson Powers-Johnson, or they take, I would be surprised with A.D. Mitchell over some of those guys, but still, like, I wouldn't be shocked if they got to where this was. We all get the situation we're all dreading, or we all, are anticipating with Tyler Guyton as the pick at 24, and then they turn around and pick a different player that we weren't expecting. That's definitely happened before.
Yeah, I still think trading down is a very realistic option for the Cowboys as well. They've got to get a 4th-round pick. I mean, they really need one. But Dane has been, I don't want to say confident that the Cowboys are going to select Tyler Guyton, but it seems like he's been very much like, Hey, I don't think he's ready to be a day one tackle, but the Cowboys might view him as that, and they might feel like he's the best option available. Tyler Guyton has 14 career starts at offensive tackle in 4 years of college. That scares me. But what doesn't scare me is the athleticism. 6'7.5", 330 pounds at the pro day, 82-inch wingspan, runs a 5'1", 40-yard dash. Like, you just don't get these guys very often. I struggle with Tyler Guyton in both good and bad ways. Like, I just don't have a strong take on him, which is probably makes me a bad
evaluator. Well, listen,
I probably should have a really strong take, but like if they draft him and be like, okay, show me. I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't know what to think.
For a man that's known for his very strong takes, I'm a little surprised. Look, here's the thing. Like, I think what complicates the Guyton situation is the presence of Amarius Mims, to be honest. Because to me, Mims is a less experienced player who looks further along than Tyler Guyton does to me, or it looks like
especially in pass protection, I would say.
Yeah, and I watch Mims, and I think I could see a very clear path of and where he needs to go and how quickly he could probably get there. I think that, again, my issue with Guyton is that we keep talking about him as this developmental player, but he, like you said, he started 14 games in college football, and I understand that that's not a ton, but that's still twice as many as Amarius Mims did, and he didn't seem necessarily, a much advanced player from the beginning to where we saw him at the end. So I just have concerns about like the time of how it's going to take to kind of get him where he needs to be. And I also worry that his ceiling may not be as high as we are anticipated because of his athletic testing.
I don't know. This one I really, really struggle.
It's tough. Like, I feel both ways. I don't love him. I don't hate him because I think he has a lot of tools, a lot of skill set. I just worry is the kind of most unpredictable aspect of evaluating these guys, the stuff between their ears, right? Like, does he have the mental makeup to grind it out to become a great player? And you know what? That's something to consider for Cowboys fans, is that we're not getting a chance to interview these guys. We're not getting a chance to talk to these guys off, or maybe, I don't know, maybe some people on Twitter are interviewing offensive line coach. I don't know, but we aren't. I'm not calling the OU strength coach. I'm not calling OU offensive line coach. So maybe the Cowboys are talking to these guys and they're like, this guy gets it. He's a hard worker. He's a grinder. And that's what's, it's the Tyler Smith thing, right? Where all we see is the tape. We don't see who the player is. We don't realize this is a guy who's going to take it to the next level and he's going to do what it takes. So that's always an aspect and an angle that we have to consider with some of this stuff. Is there are the medicals and the kind of interview stuff. We get very little insight as compared to what the teams get.
All right, so the Cowboys take Tyler Guyton in round one. I actually think what the Cowboys did in round two in Dane Brugler's mock is far more interesting to me. And we have to remember, Dane has been excellent at nailing the Cowboys day two picks. We will get to that and more next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats right now and might not have the time or the resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make this process so much easier. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. It's Locked On NFL Mock Draft live on April 17th. That's today at 7 p.m. Eastern, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern to hear who the local experts of Locked On are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft Show on April 17th at 7 p.m. is streaming live on Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. All right, Landon, let's dive into day 2 of this mock. And he gave the Cowboys Payton Wilson, a linebacker from North Carolina State, who we like quite a bit. Now, what's interesting to me in this mock is that he has the Cowboys taking Wilson over Edgerrin Cooper, who a lot of people have as the top linebacker in this class, and he has them taking Wilson over Jonathan Brooks, the pretty clear-cut RB1 in this class. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not surprised about Wilson over Cooper because I have Wilson over Cooper. I am surprised a little bit about
the injury
Wilson
stuff.
Yes, I think that Cooper is. I honestly think that this is a reach for Cooper, in my opinion. Like I see Cooper as a middle 3rd round player to me. Wilson to me, like again, like I think it's a linebacker, right? Like you may not, or you should not necessarily be expecting to sign him to a second contract. And if that's the case, then all the negatives or a good portion of the negative aspect of Payton Wilson's game or his evaluation goes away, right? Like, because if I'm not worried about having to roster this guy long term, I'll take the risk on the injury stuff. And look at the stable metrics show you something. The tape shows you something. The athletic testing shows you something. This guy, without the concerns of the injury or the age, is linebacker 1. Without a doubt, certainly over Cooper in my opinion. So, I like this pick. I think the interesting part is over Brooks. I mean, I think that's obviously we've heard nothing but. If he's there, the Cowboys are taking him at 56, and that's
it's
the pick.
Funny that the 2 options for the Cowboys here are a linebacker that has double-digit surgeries in his career or a running back that is coming off a torn ACL. Like, it's just such a Cowboys 2nd-round pick that it's almost comical.
At the same time, I prefer that route than drafting 3rd rounders in the 2nd round, because you got needs. So I'm okay with it, I guess, where I think it's like I said, what I think is interesting is more just that they chose Wilson over Brooks. To me, I guess where I'm reading that is I don't know that the Cowboys are completely as all in on Jonathan Brooks as is being reported, right?
Or
not that they wouldn't take him at 56, but that it's not
a
as
no-brainer.
Sure shot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I also think that the running backs are just way deeper in this.
Yeah, I mean that's probably why, right? Like that's probably why they're not necessarily all in on Brooks at 56.
It's just weird to me a little bit to take a linebacker in round 2 that you're going to have zero intention of giving a second contract to. But not that I want to give a linebacker a second contract necessarily. But it is a little strange to be like, hey, we're drafting a guy to be a 1 contract player. We know that up front, and we're just hoping that he can stay healthy through the 4 years. Not saying it's a bad pick, but it's just an interesting philosophy.
Well, I think the way to look at it is that you're taking a 1st round. I mean, this is the classic Cowboys move. You're taking a 1st round pick in the 2nd round because he has injury issues. So don't view it as like, we're just taking him. I mean, you're taking a value player that you're getting at a discount because of the injury stuff. And that's, again, there is no more Cowboys way than that, right? Like that is true. The Cowboys way. So,
all right. So let's move on to round 3. So Cowboys sitting with Tyler Guyton and Payton Wilson. I know there's some Cowboy fans that are going to hate that. Some are going to absolutely love it. In round 3, the Dallas Cowboys select Jaylen Wright, a running back from Tennessee, who we've already talked about on the show. His advanced metrics are off the chart, partially because it's a weird offense where you're running against 5- and 6-man boxes all the time. What's interesting in this one is that Dane has the Cowboys drafting Jaylen Wright over the following running backs: Marshawn Lloyd, Audric Estime actually went in the 4th round of this mock. Braylon Allen went into the 4th round to the Raiders. Will Shipley, Bucky Irving all went in the 4th round. Would it be surprising to you if the Cowboys took Wright over some of those other names?
No, not necessarily. Because I think again, it like as far as a fit for what the Cowboys are trying to get, like I think he's a very natural fit, right? He kind of just slides right into what you're trying to get out of that Tony Pollard role that has been, left it for Tennessee. He's this deadly player with the ball in his hands. He's got incredible open field ability. He's got speed. The issue with Wright from, watching him on tape is more just like how long is it going to take before he's ready to be like the featured back or the sole running back and as not part of a committee. But that's not going to be an issue for the Cowboys because he is just going to be part of a committee for a while. In fact, he may be part of a committee his whole career. So I think that, what Jaylen Wright has in his game is rare. I mean, not like, once a draft rare, but it's not like not every single running back that's available. And there are a lot of running backs available in this draft has the kind of speed and explosiveness that he has. Right. So I wouldn't be shocked if they decided to kind of take that type of running back and with the thought process that, yeah, we like Audric Estime a lot, but I can get 85% of Audric Estime in undrafted free agency or in the 7th round, or I can maybe get better than Audric Estime carries this next year from Rico Dowdle or something. I wouldn't be shocked.
We should mention the Cowboys did sign a running back today, Royce Freeman.
Royce Freeman.
As you could tell, we were so excited that we didn't even do a show on it.
Let's mention him here a little bit, right? Like this very much was a procedural move, right? It was a lot like Ronald Jones was last year, right? I would say that Royce Freeman is a better back than
100%,
a lot better back. So it's an upgrade in that situation where he's a guy who signed a deal that is not, not cuttable, not uncuttable. You can easily cut him and not suffer anything. But he's insurance in case you go through the draft, you don't get a running back, or even if you do get a running back, he's just another body that you take into camp, another veteran running back who could be either part of the rotation or could just eat a bunch of carries in training camp while you're trying to get ready, right?
And actually, Royce Freeman was pretty. It wasn't. I'm not gonna say it was good, but he was pretty decent last year.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of those that, as opposed to Ronald Jones, right, where there's actual opportunity that maybe he actually earns a role on the team, right? So
I mean, I like this signing a lot more than bringing in like Dalvin Cook. I think Freeman's a better player at this point. He
I probably got him for cheaper than what you would get for Dalvin Cook. So
yeah, it's whatever. We'll see on Jaylen Wright. He's another one that makes me really nervous because you watch some of the all-22 film on that offense in Tennessee, and it's just one ways. And I don't know how many like NFL decisions he has to make on a play-by-play basis, just because everything is so well defined for him. However, there's just not many guys that have his speed, quickness, and home run ability. And if you're getting that guy in the 3rd round, or at least late in the 3rd round, maybe you feel like, okay, hey, it's okay that he's not going to be an every down back. We know what he is, and we're going to have a role for him right away.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, you're adding traits to your running back room that you don't currently have, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're looking at with Jaylen Wright is, speed is a trait and explosiveness is a trait that you need as part of your running back room to have a kind of complete committee. And if you have a running back room full of big, body bruises, if Rico Dowdle, who is explosive and can run, is your most explosive back, that's problematic. So
yeah, it is. Let's finish out the rest of this Dane Brugler 7-round mock draft with a couple interesting day 3 selections. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I've been told that I'm a competitive person before I get really into board games and sports and fantasy football and all that kind of stuff. My competitive side comes out in Monopoly Go. I'm sure that you've heard of this before. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not just one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. The best part is messing with my friends. My My sister's boyfriend got it. We've been playing all weekend. It's so much fun. I can charge him rent on my iconic properties, just like in classic Monopoly, but I can also heist the vaults of riches for myself, and the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We are breaking down Dane Brugler's seven-round mock draft from The Athletic. Just to go over where we're at so far, Tyler Guyton in round 1, Payton Wilson, linebacker from NC State in round 2, Jaylen Wright, running back from Tennessee in round 3, and then we're just going to finish out the rest of this draft. In round 5, Matt Lee, a center from Miami. Round 6, Xavier Weaver, wide receiver from Colorado, which is nice. You get a target for Shedeur Sanders in 2025.
Stop.
Smith Wade, a cornerback from Washington State in round 7, and Javonte Jean-Baptiste, an edge rusher from Notre Dame. What are your thoughts on those final 4 picks?
Well, Matt Lee is, we talked about this before the show. Matt Lee, to me, I think is that first center that is not like of that ilk. This is a historic center class, right? You talk to a lot of different offensive line folks. They'll tell you that there are probably 6 starting centers, 7 starting centers in this class. Matt Lee is probably the guy that's just outside of that, So like, yeah. I haven't watched a ton of him yet. I've been trying to work my way through centers, and the fact that I've been working my way through centers and haven't gotten to Matt Lee yet shows you just kind of where he is down there.
I got some stuff on him real quick.
Let's hear it. He is. 40, I think he was the highest graded player at center at PFF, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah, like he was very, very highly graded. 48 career starts at center, 6'3.5", 302 pounds, ran a 5.03 40-yard dash, which is pretty incredible. 32-inch arms, so a little bit on the shorter side. I didn't love his power, but if you want a zone blocking center, he can really get out there and move. So I don't mind him on day 3. I like you gamble on somebody with a bunch of experience and athleticism. Sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like you definitely could have gotten 6 or 7 other centers before this. But yes, of course, you're waiting on some of this stuff, and you have no 4th round pick. You got to pick what you got. Xavier Weaver, I mean, the guy's he's so small. Like everything about him except for his height is small, right? He's got short hands. He's got small hands. I mean, he's got small hands. He's got short arms. He's like less than 170 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I mean, there were definitely big plays that he had for Colorado last year. I mean, you see highlights with him involved with future Dallas Cowboys quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Yeah, but I think he's another one of these guys you're taking a flyer on late, right? That maybe he can develop, maybe put some weight on, be a little bit of a slot, maybe give you some kick return, punt return stuff.
I mean, we're talking about day 3, guys. And as somebody who has done recently a 7-round mock draft, sometimes you're just trying to put in players are going to.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to worry about the fit. I will say the more that I do these mocks, the more I tend to double up on running backs because I just really like the running backs that are available to the Cowboys at picks 174 and 216. And you're not going to necessarily get an Audric estimate, but could you pair like a Jaylen Wright with a Dylan Johnson, who I know Matt Waldman likes a lot from Washington? Like, to me, that's almost a better strategy than drafting Xavier Weaver or whatever receiver you want to throw in there in rounds 5 or 6, because the Cowboys don't really need depth at receiver. Like they've got a pretty clear top 4, right? Or actually really top 5 with CD, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks, and then Kevontae Turpin. What they need if they're going to draft a receiver is like an impact player. I would rather just take another running back that I can get on a 4-year deal and maybe pair together with a top 100 pick.
He's going to play more, and the chances of him making the team are certainly a lot more likely. I think that does make more sense. And I've been doing the same thing too in mock drafts. I think the part of the issue when I do it is that I feel like, well, I've just watched a ton of these running backs now. So like, I that's why I like them more than some of the other names that I've seen. But I do think that, look, we've talked about it outside of the fact that there isn't a number, like a first round running back, let's call it, right? There is a lot of top kind of day 2 running backs, and then it extends to useful backs that have very specific skill sets, all the way through the 5th and 6th round that you could draft and use, I think, right away in a role, especially in a role as part of a committee. So yeah, I think when you're talking about 6th round picks, you're taking gambles on athletic upside, but I also think there's opportunity to get players who can contribute right away, which is running back, which is pretty rare, generally speaking, for a 6th round pick rookie.
Yeah. Overall, an interesting mock. I do want to listen. I'm going to self promote a little bit.
Here we go.
At the 33rd team, I did a mock draft that came out on Monday. Here's who I had for the Cowboys. You need to tell me how different you think it is. Round 1, Tyler Guyton. Round 2, Jonathan Brooks. Round 3, Trayvon Wallace, who I don't want you to spoil it because we're going to talk about Trayvon Wallace tomorrow on the show. Round 5, Dylan McMahon from NC State, a center. Then a couple other offensive tackles later on, and then Drake Stoops, a wide receiver from Oklahoma. It seems like a lot of the same people, including myself, are mocking offensive tackle, linebacker, running back on day 2. Like that seems like the most likely sequencing that the Cowboys are going to go with here.
And I'll just want to point this out. I would really hate that the Cowboys would miss out on a historic center class.
I know.
To take a linebacker and a running back, back to back like that. I mean, that just seems very a good center will play that position for you for a decade. There's legitimate good investment there. So I would hope that the Cowboys will spend a little bit more. I mean, frankly, look what happened with Tyler Biotish. Like, I think Tyler Biotish is a very solid player, but I think there's a ceiling to guys that you're taking in the 4th round here, right? Like, I think you have an opportunity to take a guy in the probably round 3 if you wanted, that could be a plus player at center, like a positive impact on center.
This is why I would love to see the Cowboys trade down in round 1.
Yes.
And in fact, I don't even hate a trade down to like 35 or 36.
I don't
if
either.
it can guarantee you like JPJ or Zach Frazier, and then you could maybe pick up another top 100 pick. Now you can. It's also an historic receiver class.
Yes.
Like I would love to draft a receiver.
You can get into that, right? Now you can hop into that pool as well, for sure.
Or maybe you grab a defensive tackle, or maybe you grab whatever other position you want to attack. I just think the more and more we get, or the closer we get to the draft, the more a trade down makes the most sense for Dallas.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll just throw this out there, and I wanted to mention it earlier. I still view a trade down as the number 1 best option for the Cowboys, short of, Olu Fashanu falling to them at 24. Outside of absolute ridiculousness, I think that's probably their best bet.
All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, we're going to look at a couple other players that the Cowboys have shown some interest in, including our Kentucky linebacker, who I can't wait to discuss. That one will be a lot of fun. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Go follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.